My name is David Poach. I'm 64 years old by the grace of God. My father actually ended up leaving my mother when I was 15, and the older siblings had already moved out of the house, so I kind of became a little bit of a wild child, but my wildness was cars and motorcycles. And I got married, and I decided to take a CPR course because she was pregnant. We were going to have our first child. Well, that opened up a whole door to me. I loved it so much, the CPR course, that the instructor for the Red Cross said, "You should join the volunteer fire department," which I did. And that led them sending me to an EMT course. After the EMT course, I really wanted to use my skills, so I applied for a fire department job. And lo and behold, I get a job as a firefighter in the town I grew up, and became a paramedic. I became a fire service instructor, a paramedic instructor. I just loved what I did. And so my career was everything: my marriage, my career, my family. I have two beautiful kids. And into my 18th year in the fire department, I had a really bad, it was a 3-year alarm fire, and I hurt my back. And they put me on Oxycontin. And when I took it, it was almost immediate, like, this is unbelievable. My pain is gone. I feel like Superman. I can do this. The problem was they wanted me to do surgery. I didn't need it. Just keep giving me the drugs and that'll be fine. And they're like, well, we have to take you off these. And I heard of this one doctor in Bridgeport, Connecticut, because I'm from Connecticut. You go there and just give them $50 and they'll give you all you want. And I'm like, oh. Well, it was true. I went in there and they just wanted $50. They didn't even want to look at my x-rays. We'll take a copy of your MRI, but we'll just give us $50 and here's a script for, I think it was 60 milligram every 2 weeks. And that's a whole lot. All the time the DEA is watching this. And so when it went down, I got arrested in that circle. That was the end of my career after 20 years, and I was married for 25 years, and I struggled with the loss of, I knew who I was, the fireman, the husband, the father, the homeowner. I knew who I was, but when that career was taken away from me, I didn't know where to start. So in a 5-year period, my life circled out of control, because I started using more drugs. I really couldn't find a good job. I was in depression so bad that I actually pulled my Jeep, into my garage, and I put the hose from the exhaust into the back seat because I knew nobody was going to be home. And my son is now 17 years old. He comes home and catches me. And I'm like, what are you doing here? And he's like, what are you doing? So my son saved my life. The marriage came to an end, and my addiction spiraled out of control, and to the point where I was buying more drugs on the street. And I actually went into Target parking lot to buy something. But I actually ended up overdosing on heroin. And 9 o'clock, the security guard came around and noticed that I was unconscious. He called 911. And of course, the responding units all knew me. What hurt me so bad is my older son. So my son was 18 because he got on the fire department, and became a paramedic, he was on duty that night. So it was a bad scene. All I remember is waking up, and I thought it was raining because I felt raindrops in my eyes, and I started clearing my eyes, and there's lights all around me, and it's my son, and it's not raindrops. He's crying, he's bawling. I called my son the next morning, and tried to say, oh, I'm sorry. And he said, Dad, you died last night. You can stay dead. So I have 2 kids, and that goes for Aaron as well. That's my younger son. Don't call us. Don't talk to us. We're done with you. And I think that was the defining moment. I tell everybody that there's a defining moment in your life that God will show you that is when you have to say enough is enough. So I called my sister, and she said, I've been asking you to go to church, and I really want to take you to church. And I was like, I'm ready. And I went to a church called Door of Hope, and one of the pastors happened to be Greg Woods, who is the director of the Hartford Rescue Mission. And so after, I'm in tears. I thought the message, there was nobody in church but me. I'm bawling, and I just couldn't believe it. Well, Greg Woods came up to me and said, are you ready for a new life? And I said, I am. And he said, well, I have a friend up in Albany, New York. And I said, Albany? He goes, you got to get out of here. You got to get out of Connecticut. Who is Reverend Perry Jones. And so he called Perry. When I got up here, I really learned about addiction, about salvation, about the grace of God. And I can tell you that, one of my favorite Bible verses to this day is Psalm 40, that God pulled me out of the muck and mire and set me on solid ground. And, and I just love that because he did. So Jesus rescued me. When I graduated from the program, my sisters were in communication with my sons. I didn't know this, and my mother. And so they were letting them know how David was doing. And the day I graduated, my son, David Jr., he showed up to my graduation. And the testimony that I have given here, how I overdosed, he was on duty, he injected me with Narcan, he was crying his eyes out. He was sitting right in the front row of the chapel. And I said, God gave me this son to save my earthly body, but Jesus died to save our eternal body. And so it was amazing. So I've worked just about every frontline job here. Started as a desk man in the program. A couple years ago, Perry decided that he needed a chief of staff, so he made me his chief of staff, which is really being Perry's second. Whatever he can't handle because of his schedule being too busy, or if he's not here, it's like, David, you have it because you know it. You've done it, and I've trained you, so you're the guy. And so, so that's where I'm at now, presently, and I love it. If it wasn't for the constant mentorship that goes on here, so Pastor Dale Walker was my spiritual mentor, my father. He was my brother, and Perry Jones filled that spot after like the first 4 or 5 years. I've been under Perry's mentorship, and I've learned so much from that man. I thank God for taking me out of that muck and mire and bringing me into the new man, and to be utilized here for his kingdom. I still to this day, I'm blown away that God would use somebody like me to help others. I still am so thankful for all God has done and continues to do at this mission and through his church. It is an absolute blessing to be part of.